Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Gray Area. I am Mr. Bennett, followed by my partner, as always, from the Sparta HQ Network,
This is Sparta!
the ghost of Sparta, aka Peter, aka Panagiotis. Yasu, my brother, how are you?
How are you, old man?
Yes, I'm. It's double nickels, baby. Double nickels. I am not shy about my age. Today, I turned 55 years old. I feel great. And I'm just glad to be here because there was a time about 30 years ago I might not have been here, and so I am, I'm just living my best life right now. And this past week, has been just a lot of firsts. I feel so young. I think at this point, in part because of all the new experience I had last week. Again, I was at Comic-Con thanks to the Ghost. He definitely, thank you very much. He hooked me up and got me into, go back and listen to the Hangout show on the Sparta HQ Network, and you'll get all the details from there from Comic Con. And so again, that was a thrill and an experience in itself being there. And then the whole weekend, my wife, she took me out Friday night. We went to a comedy club, checked out Billy Gardell. So if you guys are fans of Mike and Molly, Billy Gardell certainly was there in New Brunswick. And first time I've been to, is weird. You know how a lot of times you take for granted where you're at. Like if you live locally somewhere, a lot of times you'll never appreciate the places that are local to you. So that's the first time I've been in New Brunswick area for over 40 years, and I've never been to the Stress Factory in New Brunswick. It's been comedy club's been there for forever. I just never had an opportunity to go, or there was no one there worth seeing. So my wife hooked it up, and she got the tickets there. So we had a nice dinner, Italian restaurant near the facility, and then we went down to the comedy club, had a great time, and so that was the first. And then again today, my daughters, they took me out to dinner, and the only thing was I was just looking for was, okay, when the check comes at the end, or they're going to try to slide the check over to me or whatever, they're going to take care of it themselves. So my daughters, my three daughters, definitely hooked me up and certainly let me know that that I was appreciated, and I appreciated them. Great restaurant, great food, and Bob there. Anybody there, go and look at the menu there. It's in Linden, New Jersey, for those of you who are local. Again, great place and great food. So I've just been having, like I said, just a great time trying to stay in shape. I failed my fit test though. That's the only thing I'm regretful about. So my goal every year for the past 5 years, my goal is I must do in push-ups my age in push-ups. So I hit the mark every year. So when I hit 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, I hit my mark. To this time, I had no, now usually I'm able to warm up. So like a week or two, because I don't do push-ups on a regular. So usually what I do is like a couple of weeks prior, I start doing them because again, you got to build conditioning for that. It's not something you just kind of go out and do. But I've been so busy with work and everything else, and certainly this week I had a few 16-hour days, and I just wasn't able to get the grind in. So the push-ups I did, and again, for those of you on my Facebook page, you can go and look at the video. I did a push-up test and I did a pull-up test, a chin-up test, and I did 45. And this, when I'm talking about doing them, they have to be consecutive, so they have to be in a row. So I did 45 in a row, and then I braced myself for another 5, and then I hit the wall. I couldn't do anymore. So with a couple of weeks of practice, I could probably definitely hit the 55 and up. But I wasn't able to do it. And then my goal was 20 chins. I did 16 chins. So I know I'm trying to, I need to work on that. But again, I gave myself 20 minutes of rest after that, because it was kind of worn out. And I still got my traditional strength training workout in, so my weights and doing all the heavy lifting. I still do that. No, I don't do push-ups on a regular. I don't, unless I'm like on vacation or something, or I can't get to a gym or whatever. If I don't have a facility where I can get my strength training in, then a lot of times I'll do push-ups and more of those body weight movements. But generally, I like to lift weights. I like the iron, so bench, squat. All those traditional moves, shoulder presses and things like that. That's what, that's kind of like my hot button. And then I give myself a lot of recovery because I am 55. So I can't go 3, 4, 5 days a week like I used to. I got to slow it down. And so I give myself a lot of rest and recovery, and then I hit it hard again. So I only train twice a week. and the body part only once a week for the most part, except for abs. I do that like 2 or 3 times a week. So yeah. So I didn't hit my goal, but I'm definitely looking to certainly to reach that and to get those numbers again. But yeah, but feeling good. I'm clearly for my age. I think they said the average person my age can do 12 push-ups. So the fact that I can do 45, I'm feeling pretty good. And for the chins, I think the elite level is 12. You can do 12 chins, so I did 16. So I think I'm okay, but I'm always looking to do more and whatnot. But again, we appreciate for everyone who's joining the gray area tonight. As you see scrolling at the bottom of the screen, you see our Cash App. So we appreciate anything that you want to give us. We appreciate that, but also more importantly, consider supporting the network. Drop a Cash App to the network. The BMU network gives you content 7 days a week here. Every day has a show. So again, definitely thank you as always to BMU for giving us this platform and opportunity to come and have this discussion on common areas that common cultural things that we can have together. And again, for this is also being simulcast, if you will, on the Sparta HQ network. So please go over to the Sparta HQ, like and subscribe to his content because he has some shows. We had a show last Thursday, and we were talking about drugs. We were talking about especially drugs like mental health drugs, and certainly I have a history with that with my mom and whatnot, and certainly Peter's has some history with that as well. Very insightful show, and more so, it's not just about the drugs. It's also about people. If you have people in your life that have dealt with mental illness, and sometimes the toll that can take on families and how you deal with that, and when you have other siblings and how that gets managed. So again, if you didn't get an opportunity to watch that show, I highly recommend go to the Sparta HQ network, subscribe there, look up the show from last Thursday on psychiatric drugs. And I think that could be certainly a very worthwhile show. If not to you, then someone you may know who, again, may be going through that. Because, again, I think I covered a lot of bases there when it comes to that. How do you manage family members? How do you manage their care? How do you put yourself in a position to do that? Because not everyone's built for that. And so you have to have a certain mindset. And, the things that I had to do to prepare and get myself, mentally and spiritually ready for that effort is not an easy. Thank you very much. And so definitely, go and support the Sparta HQ network, and as he's looking to grow his channel. And then as far as the Comic-Con, again, our hangout show on Saturday, we talked about Comic-Con and all the festivities that happen there. So again, Pete, you're doing a great job as far as putting out the content as well. And
also, don't forget, we got to give a shout out to
well.
our friend CQ. He was on the show last night. He gave us the press passes. So without him, we could have gotten behind the scenes. Like, it's the first time I've been on Comic-Con for over 15 years. I haven't stopped. Only time I stopped was during COVID because I had no choice. I couldn't go in there. But this was the first year the opportunity came that CQ from Pop Culture Warrior literally looked at me and goes, "Oh, do you want press passes this year?" I'm like, yeah. Like, it was a catch, obviously. We had to do some recordings for him and stuff like that, and that was fine. But, Paul got thrown in the deep end on this one because,
to say the least.
I didn't think of it because me going to Comic-Con the first time was like being in front of my friends, hanging out. Like, I didn't feel anything about it. But I realized you process things different than I did. And let's say he had culture shock, understatement. You know what?
Well,
go ahead.
Nah, it was it's weird. We talk about it. Like I said, the age. It's really not about the age. A lot of times it's about, again, the experiences. Yes, I was cold kind of going in, not knowing what to expect. I'm in rooms with, executive producers and maybe major Hollywood figures and whatnot, and nobody knows me from Adam. And you got people there from Screen Rant, and you got all these, media companies that are out there. I mean, people who do this for a living. But nevertheless, the fact that it was a new experience, the fact that I learned and gained from it, I think ultimately at the end of the day, I think that's what keeps you young. That's what keeps you vibrant. A lot of people 55, you waiting to retire. Look, I don't own a lazy boy. I have no intention of owning a lazy boy. I'm going to work and I'm continue to grow and learn and do things and experience things until the wheels come off. So the fact that I can, even at my age, still kind of be like a kid, and to be experience these new things. So it's a blessing. So again, even being just kind of thrown in there, I think I swam enough to survive and get out. And certainly, I'd be even more confident next time that happens. So again, never stop growing, never stop challenging yourself, learning new skills, getting in different environments, getting around different groups of people. Don't just kind of stay in your own echo chamber. Just having those experiences, I think that is vital to growth. And I'm just a person who's just committed to always trying to grow and be a better person. So, I would highly encourage anyone to, if you haven't done something or if you thought about doing something, you've been putting it off, just go ahead and do it. Because, at the same time, you don't know how many days that you have. I say God willing a lot because, again, no one can take for granted the days that they may have. So if there's an opportunity for you to do something that you've been putting off, make the decision and start doing some things, and I think you'll benefit from it. Even if you don't like it, you're still going to benefit from it because, again, it's an experience that you never had before.
Yeah, I'm trying to show everybody the pictures we took. Some of them we have. I'm just waiting for Boss Man to actually wake up because I think he fell asleep behind his computer. Like, I'm like, we have a habit of our engineers falling asleep during their job back there. I don't know what the heck's going on. Oh, here we go. Finally. So, she's one of the Pink Rangers we met. I met. You were buying your lightsaber at the moment.
Yes.
If anybody knows Goku, obviously a big ass fucking Goku.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, flying Nismas. He's running soup up. Some of the guys from Pop Culture Warrior. You guys might recognize. Michael is CQ. King, he's a good friend of the show. Again, really good. Both of my really best friends. All three of these knuckles are my best friends, believe it or not. And you might recognize this old man over here. And we're in New York. We got to eat a fucking.
Yeah. So here's the thing too. So so after Comic-Con, so we leave, and Peter, he has a ritual. So every time he goes to New York, he has to go to his old stomping grounds in Astoria, Queens. And he has to go to that food truck. So again, this King Salaki, and he said, "Look, you haven't tried. For those of you, if you like gyros, or as Greek people say, heroes, if you like those, he said you haven't had one until you went to that spot. And I got to tell you, it was the best hero that I ever had. And so he went there and he bought, again, treated me, like I said, I felt like a date. I mean, he treated me very well.
Whoa.
And I'm just saying, you took
I don't
care
want
of
your
your
wife
boy.
come after me, bro.
You took care of your boy. I'm just saying, my wife knows. You hooked me up that day. So I really appreciate certainly the opportunity to hang out with you that day and just be in that experience. And yes, going to and then actually it was actually cool. Actually, I really enjoyed going into Queens and driving through Astoria and just kind of seeing some of those old stomping grounds where you're at and whatnot. So that was pretty cool as well, just seeing that community.
I was actually thinking that earlier today. Next time we go to New York, obviously we got to go through King's Flaky again, like always.
Yes, yep.
But we also have stopped to a morning cafe. It was on one of the places I used to work at.
Yes, it was a bakery. Yeah, bakery. Yeah,
yeah. Definitely go check out the desserts. Oh, they're good, bro. They're good.
Yes.
But
and I do eat dessert, especially on a Saturday. I do eat desserts on Saturday. That's my cheat day. I eat anything I want on Saturdays, but I'm pretty disciplined.
We're going on Saturday or Sunday, no matter what. So you work during the weekend, and you're not driving to New York on a Wednesday. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So, but it's funny because we met a couple of wrestlers this weekend, and it's the topic of the show. If you realize, I'm wearing the Uso shirt from last year.
Yeah.
And so Paul went and meet help me out here, Paul.
Rikishi. Yeah.
So he went and meet him. I read him last year. I didn't like. I'm not gonna meet him again. I'm not gonna. You can go up, shake their hands. They don't charge for that. They charge for pictures and autograph.
Exactly.
His manager is checking me up. He's looking me up and down, up and down. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? This guy want to fuck me or something? What the hell is going on here? He goes, you bought this shirt from here last year. I'm like, yeah, I did. I'm like, I just threw it on. I didn't realize it, to be honest with you. I went to him. He goes, oh, that's pretty cool. I was gonna wear mine, but I didn't. I decided to wear something else. Like, okay, whatever. I don't care. After Paul walks out, he goes, do me a favor. Go say hi to the big man. I'm like, why? He goes, show off your shirt. I'm like, oh, yeah. And we started bullshitting for 10, 20 minutes. I tried to get him on the show, but the answer was a hard no, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So your boy did try to put some work in the other day.
Yeah. And Nick Paul, and it's weird. That is weird. It's like you can go and you can chat it up with these guys as long as you want. But when it came to the autograph or the merch or the picture or whatever, and you obviously don't encourage you. You don't just take pictures, just from a distance or whatever. They don't encourage
you
that
get
either. So
that.
Exactly. So, but again, very down to earth, and I even asked Nick Foley. It's like, you put yourself through so much bodily injuries and just all the things that you've had to endure. And would you do it again? He's like, yeah. So it's like these guys. It's a different mindset. Everybody says that the wrestling stuff looks cool on TV, but do you actually have the mindset to go in there and put your bodies through that kind of grind? And yeah, I mean, he definitely gave a lot of stuff up, but
Yeah, and side note, a little funny side note is my mother, her doctor is of Roman Scavenge, Frank Roman Scavenge.
mhm,
And I went up to him, do you know Frank Roman Scavenge? And posed on next to me, like, yeah, I know him. He's a doc. And like
mhm,
my
yep,
mom's wrestler to go put himself through medical school, he used to wrestle and he used to wear a mask. So nobody, recognized who it was. Like, he didn't feel it was appropriate. He's trying to be a doctor, kicking these guys' asses, and he's becoming a wrestler at the same time. So, and we talk bullshit. And like, and again, I try to get Mick Foley on the show too, but he was actually pretty cool about it. He goes, listen, I want to say yes, but I'm way overcommitted right now. I cannot even say yeah. I don't want to say yes. So
yeah.
at least he was honest. I respect that about him.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely a Actually, I'm trying to share I'm trying to share a screen that's in the back. I don't know if that could be shown. So yes, this is me with Rikishi. So definitely a little slimmer these days, but certainly he's the father of the Usos, and so that was a thrill. Also meeting certainly meeting him, and he
I
certainly
am
put
going
his
to cut you
grind
off
in.
1 second here,
Yeah.
Paul. And like, you guys look like Paul is the tall son of a bitch. So Kishi's premise, you guys are exactly the same height. What are you, 6'2",
I'm
6'3"?
I'm 6'3". Yeah.
6'3". So you get an idea. When I sat next to him, I look like a goddamn skinny model. And the guy was like pretty good. He's wearing probably like a 3XL shirt, I want to say, at least. But he's a big guy, dude. And like, and you're a pretty decent guy yourself, but he's pretty big.
Yeah, yeah, but he's always been. But me, I kind of had to grow into that. Like I said, I was a 6'2", 6'3" skinny kid. I probably weighed 100. College, I was 147 pounds, and now I'm hovering around 230. So, certainly I had to put a lot of work in to kind of build myself up to that. I was, kind of the kick the sand in your face at the beach kind of guy or whatever. So I just sort of built myself up from there. But these these guys, certainly when you get up close. Definitely there's some big guys, but yeah, like I said, it was just a big, thrill being in that environment. I'm just looking forward to, other more going to more local events where you see wrestlers. I know there's in New Jersey, I know there's like a wrestling con event, that's done not too far from here and whatnot. So I may try to, put myself in those areas where I can meet, certainly some of the legends. Because I go back into the late '70s with the wrestling. So
Yeah,
so
let me know if it's a day of my day off. I'll swing that by and I'll go with you. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I need to, definitely, I need to,
Because I remember
do
a
some
while
things.
back, I sent you some information about that. I can't remember where it was, but I know they're in the area pretty often. I think it's a wrestling school in your area too. That's why they do it too.
Yeah, they were. In fact, New Jersey, I know, had a pretty strong indie promotion for some time. I don't know if they're open. I think with the pandemic, I'm not sure if they're still putting on shows. And that's one thing I haven't given myself the opportunity to do. I haven't gone to an indie show. Now that's a totally different vibe. I mean, last year, my daughter and I, we went to Friday Night SmackDown at Madison Square Garden, and that was an experience. And but an indie show, that's like a totally different vibe as well. I've seen a lot of documentaries on indie wrestling, but I never got the opportunity to actually go to it. And I know Jersey had a couple of there was an NJPW that was there for a while. I think they might have disbanded. I think there was another indie that was in the area as well. And so I need to look and see if they're gonna reopen or do some other things. But real quick, before we go on, I just want to again acknowledge the chat. Those who, as always, supporting us. 183307. Again, thank you for being here tonight. My man Eric. Again, that's my brother. We've been friends for 40 years. From the Central Jersey area. Certainly. In fact, I was just talking to him before we got on. And again, I had to thank him because he's the one who got me into a lot of the genres back in the high school days that I actually used during the event. So if he hadn't shown me some stuff, I definitely would have been like a fish out of water. But he's the one who kind of got me into a lot of things. So again, I was certainly chopping up with him. But can tell you, as always, hopefully the Steelers will beat the Giants tomorrow night. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Thank you for being with us, boss man. As always in the back, appreciate you supporting us as well. Mariana Constantine, again, good to have you tonight, and thank you for the birthday wishes. Quincy Robson in the house, appreciate you as well. And yes, I see. I could tell you watch Rollerball, and let me know if it was as good or prophetic as I told you it was. And like I said, I think that movie is something. If you haven't watched the movie, it's free on YouTube currently, especially if you have a subscription. And definitely, it's a movie worth watching. And again, a lot of things you'll see in that movie, you see themselves manifesting even in today's society. So, very prophetic film, and certainly worth the worth the watch. But tonight, we're actually going to be talking about wrestling. So again, we're not going to go too hot and heavy, with all the crazy stuff going on, with the election coming up and everything. We're keeping it light. Like I said,
Yeah, I
we're
think
not
we should
going.
keep out the whole Vince McMahon
Absolutely,
scandal
absolutely. So
too,
we're not. So we're gonna
so
talk
it
about
kills
wrestling.
Matt's point.
Yeah. So I know certainly wrestling has a long history, and certainly when you talk about the Olympics and the Olympic Games, actually the first sport really in the ancient Olympic Games was wrestling. 648 BC was one of the first times it was introduced. Then you had boxing was introduced in 688 BC, and then after that they had sort of a combined sport called pancratin, pancratin, which is a blend of wrestling and boxing. So I know Greece has a long history with that. So Peter, you might want to open up and speak
So
about that a little bit from your
Greece's
knowledge of Greece
longest
history.
longest I know in the history, but first back as first you can go from the first paper ever written out of any Greek culture or any Greek mythology. Wrestling's in there. You see vases, people doing Greco wrestling,
Correct.
and
Yep.
it's still a real martial art. I'm not saying it's the oldest martial art, but it's probably one of the
Yeah.
top 5, top 10 around there between kung fu, karate, and some other ones. It's probably top there. Is it the most deadly one? I don't know. I'm not here to be
Well, I'll tell you this. It's funny because I've been watching a lot of interviews as of late with different people in the martial arts and whatnot, and they always talk about street fighting. And a common question that comes up is if you had to have one skill or one martial art for the streets, what would you pick? And to a man, all of them said, if you can wrestle, like amateur wrestle, that is going to give you a lot of benefit when you're in the streets. The second one was boxing. So it's interesting. So when you talk about the oldest sports, boxing and wrestling, I mean, yes, you could do taekwondo and kung fu techniques and whatnot. Whether or not it's good for the street or not, you don't know. But they say if you can wrestle, you got a chance. You may not win, but they say you have a chance if you're in that endeavor. And
So let me
I
touch
know,
base on
yeah,
this really fast.
yeah,
So as a martial artist, 99.9% of fights will end up on the ground. I don't care who you are. I don't care how tall you are, or short you are, fat or skinny, how big you are, they're going to end up on the ground. If you are able to get on top, I know it sounds very
no diddy.
Here. Like you want to get on top. Seriously, I'm not even joking here. You have the advantage. It's literally 1 or 2%. You could reverse that at the point. You need to know some grappling or some judo or something to get out of it. But if you're on top, you have the advantage. Simple as that. You're most likely going to win the fight. Keep that in mind when you're in, that's why when people would say walk away from a fight, yeah, usually walk away because it's not worth the charges or anything like that.
Correct.
But if you have to defend yourself, make sure you make sure you don't go to the ground, first of all, if you don't know what you're doing. If you do the ground, you have no choice. Make sure you're on top. Mount the shit out of the guy. I know you don't want to hear that, but you need to hear it from me. Be on top because you have an advantage.
Right.
And you can pin him down, or even if you're on top, you just grab him and just wait till somebody shows up an officer, and then you can you just locked up with him, so he you don't want to. You're defending yourself. That's you can have that a better fight in court versus he's coming in and you're pounding him down on the ground.
Right.
It's one of those things. Now with sorry, I lost track. It's all with wrestling. Wrestling is a big thing everywhere we go. So wrestling has been like the number one conversation for you. I don't know how long, at least for 38 years I've been around. Eric asked me earlier today. I didn't get a chance to get back to him. I apologize. What made me a fan of wrestling? I grew up with it. Simple. I remember Hogan and Warrior going at it in 85 and 86. Maybe not 86. I was too young to remember that. But early 90s. I remember getting the ice cream truck with wrestling ice cream, and you had that special card, the collectible in the box.
Right.
Those were the days, like all the stuff, man, the stuff pillow ones that used to wrestle, or the big flags that had the wrestlers' faces on it. That's what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I remember WCW going at it with WWE, WWF back then.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, Roddy Piper painting himself half black, half white. I'm like, oh, you actually
that was pretty bad.
There.
That was pretty bad, yeah.
So,
but that's not even. Don't get me started on Roddy Piper, because that I even to this day, all these years later, yes, we're gonna be going over all of it. We're covering all of it. We're going the Greco-Roman and the WWE or let's say professional wrestling or wrestling, however you want to call it. We're covering it all tonight. So I'm going to be going back and forth. Like I said, I started out with the Greco-Roman because, again, I just think that I think it is a practical. Now, again, I've never done it, but I just remember being in high school, and I got to say, out of any athlete, so again, the football team, basketball team, I was on the basketball team back in high school, nobody put it in like the wrestlers. You want to talk about just grueling? I remember they used to practice in our high school cafeteria. It was a small high school, and you would walk by there because basketball practice would kind of go sort of side, hand in hand. And, you would come out, and there would be steam literally coming out of the cafeteria. I mean, those guys were busting it to such a degree. Appreciate it. Thank no choke tomorrow. No, we're gonna see Russ cook tomorrow. So, but see, now you make sure you come and visit us on Wednesday on the One-on-One Sports Show, and we can talk about it. So again, that's Wednesday, 8:00 on the BMU Network. Come see me then. We could talk about whether or not the Steelers choke or not. But I could tell you might want to school him in the chat there. But again, those guys. I mean, the work that those kids had to do in order to get in shape for these matches was something that I just knew that these are some bad, dudes. Not saying, again, they would beat everybody, but I just don't remember that kind of work or effort that was in place. So in fact, I was just going to ask you that. Did you ever even have an interest since you grew up with watching professional wrestling? Did you ever have an interest in getting on your amateur wrestling, your high school wrestling team, and if so,
no,
why
I'll
didn't
be
you
honest
do
with you, no. But I did grow an interest as I was in my early 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, about 25, let's say, to learn Greco wrestling because I researched it. Most of these techniques are lost in history, but we're getting most of our techniques of pots, of statues, because they're showing real moves and they're trying to decode the information now. So I would definitely love to get into a dojo that does Greco wrestling and just get on the mat with them and see what's up with this stuff. I really, really would love to do that.
Yeah, that's almost that I think that's a regret of mine. I mean, one, I think part of it was my self-image back then, because like I said, I was so thin in high school. I might have been, so you're talking like freshman, sophomore. I might have been 120 pounds soaking wet, maybe even under 120. I mean, like I said, I was super thin. So my thing was, I didn't think I would be strong enough to get into that sport. They just wiped the floor with me or whatever. So basketball, I always had a passion to play basketball, and my brother was a big time basketball player. He played Division III college basketball. So I was always in that mind to kind of follow after what he did. And so the wrestling, even though I like watching it on TV, to do it amateur, and like I said, especially seeing those guys, and like I said, the workouts that those guys did, I just think that was, hey, Anania, hey, thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate you. I just didn't think I would be cut out. I'll be straight honest with you. I thought those guys would break me in half. So I was very intimidated by that, given my physicality or lack thereof, and I didn't. And I know Eric did it, but in middle school. But I just didn't think I would have the, they would just wipe the floor with me. So that's the reason I didn't do it. But I do wish, just because of what you learn from it, I do wish I would have put some time in it just for that. Not say, even if you didn't have a goal of winning matches, you will get yourself in some incredible shape, just being in that atmosphere and whatnot. So I think that would have been something useful to your point earlier about, again, as you said, most fights wind up on the ground. And
Yep.
fortunately, I wasn't into too many fights, but I have found myself on the ground. A lot of times I did find myself on the bottom. And so, certainly having learned some of that would have been a benefit. And I would even say for anybody, wrestling would be something that, don't be afraid to introduce your kids to it. And again, if they want to pursue it, if they like it, if they want to pursue it sort of down the line, then certainly, you encourage them to do so. It's definitely not as physical as, because football, that you talk about, soft tissue injury and bone injuries. I'm not saying people don't get injured in wrestling, but, concussions and things of that nature that may happen in football, wrestling, that might be a way to get out the sort of the physicality, with hopefully not as many of the impact injuries that you may get certainly in football. I don't know if you agree with that, Grooming, but I would say if I had a son who wanted to get into something, especially these days when you learn about the CTEs and whatnot, I don't know if I'd be running to get them into football, but wrestling might be a good alternative.
They can't get dropped in the head a lot in wrestling too. So it really doesn't make a difference what sport. They're going to be physical no matter what.
Yeah,
And like,
yeah.
I don't know, you can get ran out to the head, or get punched in the face, dropped on the head, thrown on the head, tackle on the head. The head is nowhere near. I was literally just watching Sports Bar with King Smith, and they were going over about this new helmet they're only trying to introduce. Safety helmet, I think they're calling it. Pretty much what it is an extra couple inches of pad for those players who are getting tackled a lot, like receivers and so on. And some players are refusing to put it on, like they're too manly. I'm like, my dude, don't be a fucking bitch. You put the goddamn fucking helmet, and you would thank me in 10 years from now. Simple. Yeah, I have an issue with that personally. Kids are gonna be kids. They're gonna get hit. They're gonna fall. We only can do so much to protect them, but you don't want to make them pussies either. I'll be straight up, because that's I think the problem we're having now with most young men, and like they get pushed in and they fall over like, oh, I need to go to the hospital. No. Let me get hit. Let me get tackled.
But from a martial arts perspective, though, would you agree? I mean, and even in your own martial arts practice, did you guys devote time to wrestling or wrestling moves or maneuvers?
We did we had a little judo in ours, because I'm mixed. Don't forget that we had judo, so I could teach somebody. Like, for you who are a tall guy, this is not going to work. You have to work what your body is given to you.
Correct.
A short guy is very good for outer reaps and a ghost and joint locks. For you as a tall guy, I wouldn't be seeing you coming from here down here to throw.
Right. You never fight at your level. Correct.
But you still need to learn that, obviously. So you probably do more like a joint, like a reap or a arm bar, stuff like that. That'll be more practical. I like my tall guys learning the joint locks, because that can prevent you of breaking somebody's jaw and putting you in handcuffs. That could put you just putting somebody in a joint lock. He's screaming like a fucking bitch, but you have him on the ground locked in. And that is what we call a safety technique.
Right.
Because the safety technique, you didn't hurt the guy. You put him in a joint lock. You might have twisted a little his ego, but when the cops show up, you didn't break his bones. You didn't throw a punch. You put him in a joint lock. You didn't hurt him. Yeah, they can still put you in jail. I'm not going to argue that part. But most likely they're not going to, because you didn't do any fluid or what is it called? Fluid damage or something like that? Whatever they're called. But you prevented it. You were trying to stop the problem before it became a bigger problem.
Right.
It might just let you go at the point, most likely.
Yeah.
But what happened is your family matter. He's drinking a little too much, or he's having a bad day, or he had a mental breakdown. You don't want to knock the guy out. You want to just control the situation. That's why we call these joint locks. We don't call them joint locks in martial art. We call them control techniques, pretty much. Joint locks. And put him in a control lock, and literally you control him where you're going. Wherever he goes up and down, you go up, he goes up, he goes down, he goes down. Because of pain, you're going to release that pain. So if you point up, you're going up with it. You're not gonna go like, oh, hang on, I gotta go. No, you're going up before you know it.
Right.
Now, next time I see you, I gotta put you one of those locks, dude. See how you
Like, see, but you just told me, so I'm gonna use my use my reach to stay away from you. So you're gonna have to get under me.
no,
So
we're gonna put you in a lock. I'll be gentle. I promise.
yeah, see, they all say that, and then they
No, I'm sure
wind up
I
being
do. I am gentle. I'm actually one of the most gentle martial artists. Like if I'm my instructor, he would have, put you in there pretty good. Not to a point of break your arm, but he'll make you like squeal a little bit to teach you a lesson. Like, okay. Like he usually get a kick out of it.
Yeah. Eric's former sensei Gary, again, Highland Park police officer. The thing about him, he was just a brick. I mean, that's the thing too that again I appreciate about those who wrestled. The physical shape they were in. So again, I just think it's good to again before you even go into martial arts, if you have a wrestling background or even if you have a boxing background, I think those are things that help you as you go in, because I've seen a lot of martial artists get beat by boxers or wrestlers. And so, because again, you can't form your way in boxing or wrestling. You know what I'm saying? You can do the forms, you can do the, the drills and things of that nature, but those two sports, wrestling and boxing, they actually require combat. And the only way you're really going to get good at combat is to do combat. And that's one of the things I've talked about in different places. I talked about, even with boxing, I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the drills that they do in boxing, like running, like straight just running on the road. They say, yeah, it builds endurance. But again, you can run for miles, but then you're still going to tap out 3 minutes into a boxing match, because again, it's a different movement. You're doing head roll, same thing with wrestling. I mean, just having a body lay on you for that 3 minutes or however the long the session is, it just drains your energy. So my thing is, you need to be a practitioner of that sport that you're doing if you want to be good at it. And then if you can bring some of what you know in there into a more traditional, more Asian sort of style martial art or jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu or whatever it is, then I think that'll be to your benefit if you have that foundation. So I'm definitely, certainly over the years, I've definitely grown an appreciation for those who have a wrestling background and who can then because you can take that, you can go in a lot of different areas. But for a lot of martial artists who may start off in Taekwondo or whatever, not so much.
So with that, my instructor used to train us a little different, a little unorthodox. The reason I say that, so a martial art tournament usually doesn't have a clock system. It's the first 3 points. The points could be 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. We don't know. I never seen up to 20 minutes. I usually for like 5 minutes. I've seen them up to. So he used to have you literally spar for like 45 minutes to an hour. And like at first couple weeks, you'll be winded. And you're not gonna be able to handle that, and that's what we're expecting. But don't forget, you're also wearing a thick ass gi. He's turning the heat up in the summer. If it's like say 85 degrees, he'll turn the heat up to 100, and goes spar, and you're already drenched in 30 seconds. So yeah, that's how we trained. We trained for extreme conditions. So when matches came around, you're not winded. Everybody's like, I'm like, I didn't even break a sweat yet. Like, why he's puffing? I'm like, oh, now I see why he made me do this. And that's how I train my students. And they used to curse at me all the time. I'm like, man, you're so fucked up doing this. Like, and the parents used to hate it. Like, listen, you don't pay me to be nice. You pay me to train them. So get the fuck off my dojo. Get off my fucking floor. And next time you put shoes on my mat, I'm going to break your goddamn necks. Simple. They didn't like it. I don't give a shit. You sign a dotted line. You sign the contract. You know what you're signing up for. I don't want to hear it. Stay off my floor. So when I trained them for extreme conditions because you don't know what can happen. Even these wrestlers, if you think about it, when they are training during wrestling school, they train for really serious conditions. Yeah, there's choreographed. They know what they're doing and kind of, but sometimes they don't because sometimes they're winging it. Like, you heard what Mick Foley said. He said it. Like, I should have put my hand up more, but I winged it.
Yeah.
He jumped off the cage. Why did he jump off it? Good TV. That's what it was. Good TV. Nothing serious. It was just good TV. But when you're actually fighting for real life, it's not good TV. You're fighting. Two different things.
Right. So I want to and kind of go back to, I guess, the Greek side of it, because the one thing I guess I don't see a lot of is a lot of Greeks known either in the amateur world or even in the professional wrestling world. I know you have Trish Stratus and you have a few people here and there. But what, from your experience as far as in Greece, how popular is wrestling, both either the amateur Greco-Roman, which as we know has a long history there, or professional wrestling? Like, is there a professional wrestling promotion or promotions that are in Greece? I mean, is it a popular attraction there, or does everybody watch just WWE or like what's the popularity overall of either amateur or professional wrestling?
So Greco wrestling is becoming more and more a thing down in Greece now. Schools are popping out like right and left. Not to the point like you're gonna, like in Japan, you can walk down to any block, you're gonna have a karate school. Not like that, but they're more popular, more available to go learn Greco wrestling or any type of wrestling you want to learn. So that is more available for you now. Now with wrestling, indie promotions, no, it doesn't exist in Greece. The most
why do you think that is? Given that, again, it is the birthplace of Greco-Roman and the ancient wrestling. It's the birthplace of it. So why do you think it may have lost popularity, or what other sport do you think may have taken its place?
I don't think it lost popularity. People changed interests. Soccer became the number one sport in Greece.
Football, yeah,
and there's nowhere you can practice it safely. That was the issue too. Like, you're not gonna go to front of the church where you usually play soccer and go wrestle. You know what I'm saying? You need to be set up with like soccer. You can go to front of the church field and play soccer for a few hours and nobody's gonna say anything. The worst case scenario, and it happened to me. By actually, you might kick the ball into church, and the priest might be like, "Hey, this doesn't belong in the ultra, buddy. You might keep this out of my church." That's the worst case scenario. He's gonna throw a joke at us, wanted to, or he's gonna take his jacket off and come join and play with us. That is the worst case scenario. But with Greco wrestling, he cannot get hit. He can't take you and throw you on the ground and wrestle with you. That's what comes down to it.
Gotcha.
So I think that's why it became like that. Now with the professional wrestling is an American sport. Let's be straight up here. Like The Rock made it popular. Simone has made it popular. There are not too many Greek really big names out there except Trish Stratus. Do you know any other one? Because I don't know any other one.
Well, going back, so I go back to the late 70s, and
all right,
I
time
remember
you guys. Back time.
When I first started watching professional wrestling, again, that was probably 1977. It used to come on locally on WOR Channel 9 at midnight. And I would watch that. Was back then it was the WWWF. So Vince Sr. was still in charge of the promotion at the time. Vince Jr., he was on the mic, but he really didn't have a major hand in the promotion. They were still part of the NWA, and therefore back in that time you had crossover matches. You would have the WF champion oftentimes would fight the NWA champion. As like I said, they would do that circuit. So Harley Race, for example, would fight superstar Billy Graham at a sort of a Super Bowl. They did one in Miami, like a 2 out of 3 falls. And so the wrestler I remember distinctly from being from Greece was this guy named Spiros Arion. And I think he had like an amateur background in wrestling, but he was like a major heel. He fought, Bruno Sammartino, certainly a few times in the mid 70s. And then he had, when Bob Backlund, he became the WWF champion in 1978, beating superstar Billy Graham. And I know they had a series of matches, certainly in the late 70s, 78, 79 era, so that was the only guy I knew that not only was from Greece, but actually he was like a proud Greek. He was his character was such where he was like this arrogant Greek person. Like he thinking Greeks were the greatest wrestlers, and we're were the masters of wrestling or whatnot. So that was part of his character. But outside of that, that was it. Because until you told me, I didn't even know Trish Stratus. It's not like I never looked up on Wiki or whatever. I didn't even know she had a Greek background. And
Yeah, she has a big good background. So from what I know and when I met her, the conversation I had with her name is Panayota, actually, not Trish Stratus. That's her wrestling name. Panayota is the female version of my name, Panayotis. And that's how we started talking. And she's a Canadian, a Greek Canadian. Her story is similar as mine, actually, believe it or not. She stopped wrestling because of her mom developed breast cancer. So she stopped wrestling and went to take care of her mom. So that's why I say my story is very similar to hers, because my mom has colon cancer and I had to focus on her versus me.
Right.
And again, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously.
Right.
I show her a lot of respect for it, actually. It's actually something very noble and very honest to do. But again, I'm not too surprised because most Greek people, take care of their own. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Family wise.
Right.
Now, with the wrestling thing, it's not big in Greece. Now, WWE has finally broke the ground over there. It's not very popular still. You can watch it on TV. Listen, I watch my mom stream her TV from Greece, and I see her watch all the time, screaming at the TV and telling me when she meets Roman Reigns, she's gonna fuck the shit out of him. I'm like, oh,
so your mom watches WWE products. She watches.
Oh yeah, she's been always a huge fan of wrestling. Always.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah. Like I said, I got into it pretty early, and now again back in just to. I'm sure a lot of folks on here that probably have some history on it, but wrestling at one point was considered unscripted. I mean, basically wrestling here. I think the first major wrestling match over here, I think it was this guy Gotch. I think his name is Carl Gotch. I think it was back in the 20s. They had this big wrestling match, like 50,000 or plus people there and whatnot. But the problem was that the match went on for a while, because back then wrestling was more about you taking a person down and keeping them down. So as a product, it wasn't very entertaining. And so really starting in the 30s and 40s, they started having more scripted outcomes. And then where wrestling really changed more so to the product that we have today was in the 50s, when you had this guy Gorgeous George, who came out, and he was like Ric Flair before there was a Ric Flair.
I actually remember that.
Yeah, so he came out, and he's the one who really, and what you also had with wrestling then is you also had the introduction of television. Like wrestling really took off in terms of America in the 50s. It was perfect for television, especially if you remember the old days of wrestling. Like now, all the wrestling shows or whatnot, they're in these big, 20,000 seat arenas and things of that nature. But most wrestling you would see on TV, it would be in these very small studios and a few people in attendance and whatnot, but just with the camera angles and everything was perfect for TV. And so Gorgeous George, he came in and he really created like the real heel character. He had the hair, he was flamboyant, wasn't necessarily the best wrestler, but again, he sold it. And in fact, he inspired people like Muhammad Ali. Like why Muhammad Ali, aka Cassius Clay at the time, why he became who he became was because he used to watch Gorgeous George on TV. And so, he picked up some of that persona when he started going there and bragging, I'm the greatest and this, that, and the third. That was his inspiration for that. So I think that had a lot to do with the evolution of wrestling as, again, sports entertainment. But even then, certainly as a kid, you're watching it, you're really not up on the kayfabe of the whole thing. So I know for me now, was there ever a time in your life where you thought that it was what I mean by real? I don't want to be insulting. What I mean by real, that you thought that guys were really hitting each other and that the pinfalls, that they weren't scripted, that there was a sense of reality that you thought, and if so,
fuck yeah. When I was
so what time? Yeah. And for anybody in the chat, all right. Now I admit I might have been a little bit late to the party. I probably bought wrestling as real probably until I was maybe about 12 or 13 years old. And it could have been maybe because back then, obviously, it was more sport. Like you didn't have the flamboyant, like, when you had that, what was that era before the Attitude Era? You had all those Doink the Clown and all those kind of crazy guys or whatever. Or if you watched, or if you watched NWA wrestling, which again, I got to thank my boy Eric also because he got me into watching National Wrestling Alliance, Georgia Championship Wrestling, and there was always like a sense of realism
So for
that they
me
put to it. So
personally,
what was that? What was that age for you where you thought wrestling was real, and when did you discover that it wasn't?
I probably sometime in middle school, I said,
Mm.
"Oh, this is not real." When the news started breaking out, that's when during WCW, the Monday Night Raw, so that's where all the stuff was coming out. I'm like, this is not real. This is not real. This is not real. I'm like, okay, this is bullshit. But once I started, researching that, as I got older, like, yeah, it makes sense. Okay, the guy's jumping off a fucking off a cage, into something a pit, and oh my god, he just broke himself in half. I got to give credit to Jr. That guy, his announcement skills are to the next level. I think to this day he's the best announcer we ever had.
Right.
He freaking broke himself. I'm like motherfucker. I'm like screaming back over there. I'm like, but I realized after as I got older, like, yeah, and he's back the next day. Come on now. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
When I got a little older and I saw Hogan and Wrestling Rock, I believed it, but I did it at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And when I read Hogan's book and he mentioned a couple times, like, oh shit, the news is out. We're not real. But, the moves are somewhat real. Let's talk about it for a second here.
Mm-hmm.
The outcome is already scripted, kind of. So it depends who the wrestler is. If it's one of the big timers, some of them, the big timers will say they want to rehearse it or go over what points. Okay, I'm gonna go over here. Then I'm gonna reverse it to you. Then I'm gonna tackle you into the and so on. Right? Okay,
Right.
cool. Now some wrestlers are like, let's wing it. Let's wing it. I just want to make sure I get my finisher in. Make sure I do this, this, and this, and that. Anything else, let's wing it. I know The Rock is a big winger guy. So he doesn't like talking about it. But like I think it was Randy Orton, I think they said he likes going over step by step. There are some wrestlers, like the bigger ones, like Calais, the great Calais. He likes getting in the ring days before and going over the whole match. Obviously, during live events, that's gonna be to the T, but at least he has an idea. Here, okay, I'll go here, then go here, then go here, go here.
Right.
So when I pick you up and throw you across the ring, let's say I spear the shit out of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or clothesline from hell, or a jackhammer. I have you up here, all right? Then I grab you, I twist you, then I throw you on the mat. Those mat do not give. Your body is putting shit out there. Or the most famous one, when Kurt Angle put Shane O'Mac through the glass.
Right.
And it was supposed to be sugar glass, and he threw him the wrong window. He was one window two over, and he goes, "What the hell is going on?" He goes, "Whoop, suplex." The fuck? Okay, I'm doing it again. 3 times. All right, third fucking chance. Poosh. I'm like, he went through a real fucking window. His body went through that shit.
Yeah. And big rant. So again, obviously, when we say real, we're talking about whether or not the outcomes are scripted or not. So we're keeping it in that context. But yeah, some of that stuff isn't. I mean, you can see that the punches aren't really landing the way they need to be landing, and some people, certainly will sell poorly. We've all seen those wrestling videos where a guy did a poor job of selling a move and whatnot. So it wasn't that good.
Or
so
overselling it.
Or overselling it.
Triple H.
You hit a guy and he does a 720 somersault after
Who's
getting
this?
with a punch.
Rock?
No, I'm just saying you see those wrestlers who to your point, oversell. Like you hit the guy and the guy does a 360 move. Like he got who was that guy? Rest in peace to him also. Kurt Hennig. He would oversell to the max. I mean, he would take a shot. He would go, fly 7 feet in the air, do a 360 turn, and then land from a punch or whatever. So yeah, sometimes he would take it a little bit over the top. But yes, but yeah, you definitely have that time where you come of age, and guys were telling me for a while, and then you're kind of defying it first, right? So it's almost like people, in a younger sense, it's kind of telling you when you're when people try to tell you there is no Santa Claus. Now again, back then you might have been 5 or 6 years old when you came to the realization that it wasn't Santa Claus, it was mom and dad. So, but with the wrestling, you kind of held on to it a little bit more, And I know a lot of people, if you were in the South, that grew up in the South for a while, they took their wrestling very seriously. So that was almost fighting words. If back in the 70s or the early 80s, if you tried to tell some of those folks that wrestling was either scripted or not real, you can get into a serious fight back then. That the kayfabe was so good back then. You know, you hear those stories from those, especially in those territory days. Wrestlers would actually get attacked. Like, so again, if they didn't get the outcome that they wanted, wrestlers getting stabbed, going back to the dressing room, or bottles thrown at them, and just all kinds of just heat that
The
was from the crowd.
movie, not the
Yeah.
movie. I'm sorry. The show Heel shows it to the T.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually one of the better ones that go over South wrestling versus wrestling on this side of the country. They still have indie promotions that people go crazy for, and and they wrestle hardcore. They will give up their mortgage sometimes just to wrestle or be at their event. It's like the local war whore. Like me and you go to the bars, have a few drinks at Comic-Con, for example. That's their Comic-Con every weekend, every Sunday or every Saturday or whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, I got an app, a video app. I think it's Fight TV, and they have all kinds of indie promotions that you can see. And yeah, you're right. They're done in barns. They're done in like high school gyms. They're done in parking lot out. I mean, just the places were just like wow, but at the same time, that's where a lot of these guys cut their teeth. You start in these small promotions or whatnot, you try to work yourself up. Like I said, I've always wanted to get to an indie show, but I just haven't had the opportunity to do so. And like I said, New Jersey used to have a pretty strong indie presence. I don't know if they still do, or if some new promotions have come up in the meantime. So, I'll have to define some. But yeah, but people took their wrestling seriously. And again, those were fighting words back then. If you were a big wrestling fan and someone tried to tell you that it wasn't real or whatever, that people went to blows, whether it be in high school or grown people.
Where else is very
Yeah.
popular?
Where's
UK.
that? Yeah.
UK has a humongous wrestling. The indie scene in UK is so big, it's not even funny. Like what's her name? Pledge, something like that. It made a movie about her. She's in AEW now. She was from UK. She went to trial for WWE. Her brother didn't make it, but she did, and it was a culture shock coming here to the States in wrestling. And she says like it was night and day. She was thrown into a situation she didn't know how to react. And next, she's like the next woman's. She had the woman's title. She was the youngest one at the time. I don't know if it was or not. And and it was a domino effect because when you get thrown into a situation that fast, that hard, out putting that work in, like like me and you would, it kind of shocked her a little bit. She made some bad choices, whatever. And she was out for an injury, and now she's back, whatever. But UK, yeah, if you tell me the version's fake, you're probably gonna get a fat lip when you're done, very easily.
Yeah. That was the thing. Now again, in certain audiences, it being a bit more sophisticated, but yeah, it wasn't until because then you started seeing. I remember in the '80s, you started seeing like news exposés and things. I think NBC did something with wrestling is not real, and people started coming out with stuff and because it's interesting because the media almost kind of turned on wrestling because again it used to be covered like in newspapers, like I mean major sports sections in newspapers. They would cover the results of wrestling matches at the Garden or something like that, or and I remember this one guy, he was in the DC area, George Michael, he had, not the singer, but this guy George Michael, and he had this show George Michael and the Sports Machine. He would cover wrestling in his sports. So he had a sports wrap-up show that would happen every Sunday night. And wrestling would be part of his coverage. So he would talk about baseball, football, all the games, and then he would have a segment if there was like a WrestleMania or something that weekend or Starrcade or something else, he would put it right in there, and he didn't treat it any differently from any other sports coverage that was there. So I think even with a lot of the the mainstream, there was a sense of credibility that went with it. But then once the mid and late '80s, then people started coming out with stuff, and then you had the I guess the drug trials with the WWF at the time, and with Vince and the steroid thing or whatever, and he had to kind of do an about face and admit in court that this stuff is scripted and all the things that came with it, and that kind of took some of the scab, the realism off of it for certain people. But having said all that, even though with an educated populace today, what I'm still fascinated about is, again, the popularity. Because like I said, when I went to the Garden, now the last time before I went to the Garden last year, the last time I went to a wrestling show was with Eric. We went, this was 1986, I want to say. It was Hulk Hogan teaming up with Roddy Piper against, I think it was Paul Orndorff and I think another guy. I forget who the other guy he tag teamed with. So this was at the Garden. We were there. And, it was great being, certainly being in the audience and stuff. But when I went this last time last year and I saw the diversity of the crowd, the excitement in the crowd, just the passion. I haven't seen that. Harley Race. Thanks, Eric. I haven't seen that I've gone to professional football, professional baseball games, professional basketball games, college games. I've never seen that kind of energy or excitement in any other venue. So how wrestling, even though we may know that, and guys do get hurt from it, I get all that, and certainly some of the bumps that these guys take and whatnot, and we all know about the poor health care and everything that goes with that.
What they don't have health care.
Well, I'm saying the lack of health care, but I'm just saying, but the popularity of wrestling and who it draws out. Even when we were at Comic-Con, again, I talked about it on this Saturday show. There's a lot of crossover where you have the again, Vince, he was the guy, he brought a lot of those guys in. Even Bob Costas.
Some pictures I want to show about over the years from Comic-Con. If Bossman actually clicks my screen, I asked him like 3 times already. Thank you. We wake up finally. All right, we need a new director in the back. This is Trish Stratus.
Bossman, you're doing a great job, sir. Carry
on. Here, let me go back. Actually, I got a bunch of pictures here. I gotta go through them. All right, further back. Don't go too far back because I got.
Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, Pete at one time had short hair. So I know it's hard to believe, but
I actually shaded. Last year ago, I donated all the hair. Remember?
Yeah.
Okay, so these were. What are these guys? Yeah, these were the first couple of wrestlers I met. DDP, Christian, Lita. And they were the first couple I met. Then and this guy over here,
Ron Simmons.
Sweet guys. I remember it was cool. Lita, I'll give you credit. If you're gonna meet her, get ready. She's bossy as fuck. And like I had something in my hand, she just grabs it out of my hand, like, give me that. You're not taking that shit in your hand when I'm taking a picture of me. I'm like, okay.
Right.
And her agent, like, she's ready.
Where was that at? Was that at Comic-Con also?
Yeah, okay. Jive Center. Same spot you met them. They've been there for. That's the same booth they usually have for last year.
Oh, okay, same guys. Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, we're talking Sting. Sting is a very humble person. I give him credit. Yeah. Very humble. Like he's happy, has fans. I was joking around. Like, how much would it cost me? That's my piece of shit cousin. I go to him. How much would it cost me to get my cousin a choke slam? He goes, I can do it for $20. He goes to me, joking around like, sweet. I was like, going to give him $20 to do it too. Let's go further up. I got more here somewhere. Talked about Trish Stratus already. All right, this one hits home for me a little bit. This is the year that Razor Ramon passed away. A few months later, he passed after I took his picture. So that hit home for me. Sweet guy, and I was like I said last night on my show, I always put my hands right in front of me. I don't want to get tackled by security. Your hands too low, too high. Razor Ramon, man, I give him credit. He fucking slaps my hand. He goes, and Jack goes, get your fucking hand up. You know what to fucking do, motherfucker. And then he went to sweet up. He loved doing that. And Kevin Nash, nice guy. Again, he goes, He comes like he's like, man, you're a fucking short little shit. I'm like, the fuck? Not everybody's like 6'10", motherfucker. But again, he was a nice guy. This one is a little controversial because Sergeant Slaughter, people say he wasn't in the military. He's not. I'm not gonna argue that. That's not my business.
Yeah.
But what he's he a legend? Absolutely, he's a great legend. I cannot take that away from him. Let's see who else. So I apologize for all the pictures, guys. The doctor last year, she's a sweetheart. She's a real doctor, believe it or not. She's on AEW. Chunga Boy, sweet guy too. And I had my long hair and we were joking around because his band broke. I go, do you need a hairband? He goes, man, I wish I had one. Like I opened my bag and I had it in plastic. I go, here, I have an extra one. He goes, oh man, you're a lifesaver, dude. His hair was all over the place. Mick Foley from last year. Again, sweet guy, very sweet guy. Like you saw the house he was this year.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Let's see. I think that's it. Oh, okay. No, that was 2 years ago. This is last year. I'm sorry. Again, I showed him. You saw a picture how tall he was next to you. Now see how short I am. I'm 5'8".
Yeah.
He's a big guy. And last year he wasn't as talkative, to be honest with you. He just took a picture and move on your business. This year he was very talkative. Right. I think he just started doing conventions last year, so he's starting getting warm up to that. Pop guy. Man, this guy is a sweetheart, bro.
Bagwell, yeah.
Oh my god. When I took his picture, like he had nobody in his line. He was so excited. He took his time to get to know me. He talked to me. Listen, he goes, if your orca gets fucked up, come see me. I got you. I'll hook you up. Don't worry about it.
Did he charge you for the pic or no?
Yeah, he charged me like $5. It was nothing.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he didn't care about the money. He cared. He had a fan come and talk to him. That's what he cared about more. And he was going. Obviously, we all know about what's his name? Matt Hardy.
Hardy, yeah.
And sweet guy, very sweet guy. His line was so ridiculous. He couldn't take the time to every person say, "Hey, what's going on? Let me get to know you a little bit." But he wanted to do that. But his manager, keep it moving, dude. You got a big line.
Yeah.
It took me about 45 minutes to get to him. I really like Luthor. Like
that for me is hard to look at. To be honest, again, I remember Lex Luthor when he came to NWA. I mean, he was already in Florida. He started in Florida, but then he came up. He was a sort of an associate of Four Horsemen back then. I mean, body like you never saw a body like that in wrestling, and just just the things that happened to him later in his career. The death of Miss Elizabeth, and then his health.
Do you know how his back got really fucked up? He told me how his back got fucked up. He slept wrong on the airplane. It wasn't right? Yeah, but all the steroid reviews, his back gave him out. So getting steroids and plus getting thrown around, he slept wrong. He one day he could, and he slept sleeping on an airplane, and he says, I can't move, man. And like he literally had to get carried out. They rushed him to the hospital, and that's it. Because all the beating up, it beats him up. People don't realize that. It takes a lot on them. More in here. All right, here. You recognize this guy, $1 million man.
Oh, the $1 million man, yeah.
So I did a story on this actually on my channel, on my Motivation Mondays when I was doing that, and this humbled me so much because these guys have fallen from grace. What I mean by that, like they used to have all these houses, cars, and everything, and now look at them. They're very quiet people. I remember him pushing Lex Luthor. And he's literally holding the bag that made the money of the day tight as possible because he was scared somebody's going to take it from him. So it tells you how far of grace they have fallen. Like before, he didn't give a shit about money. He was making money out of fists. Is that it from here? Oh, here's one more, I believe. Obviously, again, he has fallen from grace too. Remember.
Yeah, it's amazing he's still alive. To be honest. Stories he's told back in the past or whatever. Yeah.
Funny story. I was talking to him about, wrestling and all this stuff. And I told him, listen, I'll be honest with you, bro. You should scare the living shit out of me. He goes, why? I'm like, I hate fucking snakes. I cannot fucking stand snakes. I went to him. Believe that. Yeah, that's everything. He goes, I'm going to tell you a secret, kid. He goes to me. I'm like, what is that? I go, I hate snakes too. I'm like, what? I hate fucking snakes.
Yeah, I
And
remember
when they
him
told
talking
me,
about that. Yeah.
when he goes, when they told me I have to be a snake handler, I wasn't happy.
Mhm.
He goes, I smoked a pack of cigarettes that day. I go, wow. And to see him to be what he is now, I'm like, whoa. He has fallen. I'm surprised he's alive, like you said. I'm surprised he still comes back once in a while and does an appearance here and there. But you know what? That's what they love to do. They don't do it for money, bro. You know what I'm saying? The money is the bonus. They do it because they love what they
Yeah,
do.
you got to be of a certain mindset. You know what I mean? I think for a lot of combat sports or whatever, you have to have a certain mentality when it comes to this thing. Not everybody can do this. I mean, that's why again, people say, "Oh, I want to become a professional wrestler." Yeah, go to a wrestling school and make sure you go to a legit one, and they have a way of weeding out the ones that are not there. You're gonna be doing 3,000 Hindi squats, or they're gonna shoot on you and really put you into stuff just to let you know how real this stuff can be. Because a lot of those like the whole one thing I say about the wrestling, the holes that they're applying, you can definitely put people out. I've seen people taken out with sleeper holds. I've seen people, really put in bad situations where they're tapping out. So, they can flip. And that's why you've always had in wrestling, you've always had what they call shooters. These are people who are legit guys who can go in there and hurt you and break bones or whatever, just in case if you get out of line or if you're not selling properly, if you're not doing the right thing, that you have guys who can certainly go out there and or stretch you is what they call it. I know Stu Hart, he was known for stretching people in his basement and all that kind of stuff. You hear those stories. So yeah, these guys legitimately, whether you want to call them martial artists or whatever, they a lot of these guys do have such a skill set to kind of make it as real as necessary. But the idea is not to hurt one another. But they do have some. Hiro Matsuda, he broke Hulk Hogan's leg. He went there for a tryout, and Masuda broke his leg, and but
It's
Hogan came
earning
back
your
6 months
stripes.
later or whatever, and because he wanted to do
Even
it, but that would have sent a lot of people home.
so, they're the other two of I won't say faction families. They were big in wrestling. Was the Hart Foundation, and the father of Bret Hart. He knew as a hard ass in the wrestling world. Like, if you went to his to his school at his house, pretty much in a basement, you worked. You were working the whole time. You're earning your stripes. You're earning your right. And I can't remember the other one. They made a movie recently about do you know what I'm talking about, Paul? I can't remember the name of it right now.
Oh, you talking about the Von Erich movie?
Think of the Iron family. They had a school too. They earned their right. Back then, you didn't have the NXT or the tryouts. Now you can look up on WWE. Or I'm not sure how, Jack. You look it up. It says, oh, when it's NXT tryouts, you have tryouts. If you pass the tryouts and get to the second and third and fourth, and eventually hit down to the performance center and try out and you pass that, you sign that contract afterwards to train. I think it's like 2 years. You're off camera. You do like a little indie stuff,
Yeah.
but WWE version NXT indie stuff, pretty much. I call it.
What did you think of like Tough Enough when that came out? Did you like the concept, or did you?
I
Because I know
thought it was great, yeah.
everybody had a kind of reality type of show at that time. So did you like it or love it?
I loved it. I think it was a great show.
Mm.
To be honest, it opened the curtain. That's what we needed. You know what? Tough Enough had a weird experience because Tough Enough 1 and 2 I think was awesome. Then they took a break from it. Then they came back with it and they did it on live Raw, Tough Enough kind of thing. And that was good for a while too. Then that's it. Then they stopped. Then they came back again, but Stone Cold was running it. He wanted to do it his way. And then they scrapped it completely. Povedek, aka Triple H, had a vision, and he's executing his vision to the T now with NXT. And like, let's give these guys any opportunity. Let's not give these guys the hardships he went through, living on his car, eating ramen noodles, not even having $5 in his pocket. Because these guys don't. What do you think? They pay for the travel expenses, they pay for the gas, they pay for the food, pay for everything, and they guess what? They maybe be making maybe $5. They're living literally arena to arena. Sometimes that's why sometimes you see them like in the smaller arenas, indies. They're wrestling from arena, but they're carpooling to save a few dollars.
Yeah.
He's trying to eliminate that. There's nowhere that you lose your dream. There are a lot of wrestlers who could have been really good wrestlers, but they could not get through the
Well, I
indies.
think I think just like any sport, I mean, like the NFL, you're talking about less than 2% of D1 football players who play. So you talk about playing at the highest competition in college, Division I football, less than 2% make it to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing with the NBA, and same thing with baseball. Most of the folks are gonna stay either at the amateur or at the lower professional ranks. That's just the reality. I mean, we get spoiled on, the guys we see, whether it be an NFL team or now you got the World Series going on with the Yankees. The Yankees down 2-0, which I'm not happy about. But that being said, everybody thinks that, okay, yeah, I can be a baseball player. And the reality is that no, it's not. And that's why I've always been fascinated by those indie, like you look up YouTube now and find several documentaries on indie promotions that, they may highlight certain guys who may be really good at the indie level. But when it comes to trying to get a tryout, or at least back in the day, it might be a little bit easier now, trying to get a tryout with the WWE or AEW or some other, top tier, wrestling promotion, it's still like 1 in 1,000 that actually make it there. And a lot of these guys, they're older. And what's really sad about it is, it's like, just because you make it there, that doesn't mean that you stay. I think one of the hardest things to watch is when you see a guy who used to be a main eventer on one guy is Marty Jannetty. So I don't know if you remember back in the day, Marty Jannetty, he used to be with the Rockers with Shawn Michaels. They were tag
Briefly,
team.
I don't remember that much.
Yeah, that might have been a little before your time, but I mean, again, great wrestling ability and whatnot. But he was a hard party guy. Didn't take things or opportunities that seriously. And I've seen him wrestle some of these indie shows. You guys like 50 years old, still in the ring, still trying to get a shot to kind of get back to the title. And even if he can't, they still perform. And it's like literally you're in a room. Like the wrestling ring is like in a big room, and the curtain is literally a curtain. It's like the door that goes out. There's a curtain that they put in front of it, and they come through, and they still got to sell the move like they're excited about coming out. I mean, so a lot of them do it. Yeah, it's definitely not about the money, but it's still something to say about for a guy or a woman who was on top for many years, and then you see them when they can only work the indies. Like I said, it's sad. So it's not so even just getting there, that doesn't mean you have staying power there. So that's another level altogether. But same thing with the NFL. The average career of an NFL player is 2 years, 2.5 years. That's it on average. So thinking that you're going to be in the NFL for 10 years or 15 years and make all this money and consider being a Hall of Famer or Super Bowls, that is, that's not the life. So again, it's a hard business. Yeah.
Like with NFL, like you can meet a lot of NFL players who have never actually played a professional game in their life. There were the extra or the extra of the extra of the extra. There are a lot of positions. NFL team is humongous.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear, oh, yeah, I played for the Stinking Eagles, for example. Okay, yeah, but he never played a real game because he got cut before he was able to. He was there only for 6 months. He got cut. I'm like, why? That's what happened to Rock. He was originally a wrestler. I mean, a football player.
Played for University of Miami. Had to play in the CFL. Had no money. Now again, I don't know what CFL is now. It's still not, it's nothing compared to the NFL. I know there was a push in the 90s where the CFL was drafting top tier talent. I know there was this Heisman Trophy guy, Rajib Ishmael. I know he signed a big deal to play in Canada for at the time it was like $18 million, something like that. So, but his career never really blossomed there, and I think he might have got to the NFL at some point. But yeah, for a lot of guys who play in the CFL, yeah, it wasn't
that was the only option that you had if you didn't go there. Now you have, you had the XFL and you have the now they got, I know The Rock, he had like another kind of football where he took the USFL and he took the XFL this past year and he merged them together. And but again, will they get another year out of it? I don't know. It's just very hard to compete with the NFL. Is like the WWE. It's very difficult to compete and have a
The only way he
competitive
can compete
advantage.
with them if he works with them. I'm like behind closed door kind of thing. And a lot of them do that. There's a lot of business deals behind closed doors. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
So like they recently find out Sean McMahon and Tony Khan, who owns EW, they were having a meeting. What was that? We don't know. He said, "Oh, we were just bullshitting." I don't think. I think it was more. I think it was that they're having a meeting, something about the business,
Right.
because they're both in the same business in the day. As much as
Right.
Sean Mack is not actual acting member right now, he still has stake in it, so he
Right.
still cares.
Right.
So that we know he's not active. We don't know what happens again behind closed curtains again, behind closed door. Same thing with Stacey, Stephanie McMahon. So she's not actually an active board member. Do we really know that? But her husband is the COO.
Right.
So technically, she gives a fuck still. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
her paycheck coming in.
Yeah.
That's how she lives her very comfortable lifestyle.
Right. Right.
But with all that said, there are a lot of wrestlers that were football players. Bill Goldberg, another one.
Oh yeah.
Roman Reigns. Here's another one right there. That's 3.
Oh, you go all the way back again. Tully Blanchard, and it's where all these guys came out of Texas, right? North Texas State. You had Stone Cold Steve Austin. You had Dusty Rhodes. You had Tito Santana. All those guys played for that University. Tully, he didn't. I don't think he played there, but I think he might have been at SMU or something like that. I think he was a punter of some kind. Wahoo McDaniels. Certainly, if you go back far enough, he actually played professional football. He played for the New York Jets, who were part of the AFL at the time. They were the Titans, and then they became the Jets. You also had Big Cat Ernie Ladd. All right, going all the way back again. Played for the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Oilers. 6'9". He was a major star for many years in the certainly in the NWA. He actually came up to the WWE for the time. Again, I know Paul Orndorff, right? He played at I think he played at Tampa, University of Tampa. Steve Williams, Ron Simmons. In fact, Ron Simmons was I think it was a 2-time player to all whatever at that level, all pro at the collegiate level at Florida State. Again, didn't plan out. Lex Luger played professional football, and in fact they were part of, I think, the USFL. I think they were on the Memphis USFL team. So you're right. So a lot of guys from football certainly have in fact, back then you got to understand there was no money really in the NFL, or certainly not the USFL. So a lot of guys would wrestle in the off season. And back then, I know certainly with Yahoo McDaniels, for example, wrestling became more profitable than playing in the NFL. So he decided to do it full time. Same thing with Big Cat Ernie Ladd. So a lot of those guys certainly had that that background, just like some of those guys had major amateur backgrounds. Some of these guys, if you look like the Funks, or if you look at the Briscoes, these were like national level wrestling champions. Bob Backlund was a NCAA Division II wrestling champion. We all know about Kurt Angle being an Olympic medalist. That was part of his gimmick. So again, a lot of these guys come from these backgrounds.
And don't forget, some of them, they come from a bodybuilding background and a military background. A good amount of them.
Yeah.
Randy Orton was Marine, for example.
One of my favorite wrestlers of all time is Mr. USA Tony Atlas. Again, he won Mr. America, Mr. USA bodybuilding championships back then. Ricky Steamboat was a bodybuilder. In fact, Ricky Steamboat competed against Superfly Jimmy Snuka in a bodybuilding contest. You can actually look that up on YouTube as well. So again, these guys.
They had a wrestling thing. I mean, a Bible was making fun to do the IFW or something like that was called.
It was like an amateur. It wasn't like, I don't know if it was it wasn't like IFBB and one of the major
No,
ones, but yeah.
Rich trying to do his own promotion of bodybuilding for one time because he spinned off. That's where he got the next belt. Yeah, you know.
No, you're talking about McMahon's thing. So that was the UW. That was the WBF, which was a disaster from day one. that wasn't going. That wasn't going in.
But wrestling has been a disaster. What he tries to do.
Yeah, and that's a major business lesson there. Sometimes it's best to stay in your lane. So yes, and anything he's tried to do outside of wrestling, he's it's been disastrous for him. The XFL, the WBF, some of his movies projects didn't necessarily go very well. So yeah. So
remember the New York restaurant he had, the WWE shop in New York, Times Square, the restaurant. It was a big thing because they were doing a lot of promotions in there and like promos. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it just disappeared. Nobody knew what happened. He was not making money. He was losing money.
Well, that might be an interesting segue then. We got about a half hour left of the show. I know recently on Netflix, they just had the documentary, and we never got a chance to talk about it on the certainly on the Hangout. So maybe
we have a show coming up on that.
We do. Okay, so yes, but just maybe just give like
we can touch it a little bit.
What was your just initial impression of the documentary? And certainly in light of, we understand there's major litigation now as far as the lawsuits and things like that. So I don't want to.
The show will be on the 23rd, November 23rd. Right now, I might move it up a little bit. I'm not sure yet, but right now it's at 23rd. I think he's a scumbag. Makes me feel more like a scumbag than he was before. He says he did good for business. No, dude, you need to go for business. You're a scumbag. Simple as that. A lot of things you did was not good for business because you burned a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're still burning people. More accusations came out the other day about him. Another lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
And like, they're burying him. I still gonna go back to my original statement of what I said a while back. I don't think this was leaked out. I think he has such a control power freak. He said it on the document. He had control issues because his father was towards him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He never got the, hey, good job, son, or great job, or pat on the back. He never gotten on that.
So I mean, look, you can talk about him. You can talk about dictators. You can always make a case. If you go back and look at any documentary on Hitler, on Stalin, you look at their backgrounds. You've had shows talking about fatherhood and what does it mean to raise sons and be a father and whatnot. A lot of these people come from very dysfunctional areas that made them just in the abstract, the successes that they became, but also the monsters they became also. Mm-hmm. Whether you want to say that these people, built up something, they came from nothing. But again, these guys came from horrible backgrounds. McMahon, basically his dad abandoned him like right away, didn't even know him. Grew up with a stepfather, the father that beat him, like crazy. And then when he gets with his father in his teenage years, his father really didn't want anything to do with him. He kind of tolerated him. And then, his
mother, who was worse too. He was dying for his mother's titty in his mouth, and he couldn't get that. That's how bad it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, that messes with, that messes with people, and it can, form your character in terms of how you go about doing things and how you view people, going forward. So, so it was hard not to watch that. Now, I wish they would have went maybe a little bit more into that. They alluded to it, but I don't think they got deep into it in terms of what that past was like. I don't know. It looked like from watching it, he had a lot of creative control over it, even though they covered a lot of ground.
His lawyer
that I hate seeing. I mean, I would rather say, especially if you want to make him look even, try to look at, have him be more, to have more empathy for him. Yeah, show the bad stuff. If that happened to you, whatever, you say you don't want to sell your mother or your past, but if that helped form who you are, you may garner some sympathy for some people, or at least some empathy. But I think a lot of that stuff he just wanted out, so I think they kind of glossed over it. But I was looking forward to them going a little bit deeper into his background and story.
So from my understanding, their original was supposed to go more deeper. They were not supposed to be, what was it, 5 episodes, was it, I think?
It was 6.
6. They were supposed to be like more than that. but they pulled the plug when this happened. And like his lawyer was said, you know, if we're going to do this, I want to be present. We want control. We don't want to make you look like a fucking victim here.
Yeah.
Or this evil person. You know, they try and put him in a good light. And I get what he did. You know, I get. Let's give credit when it's due. He did turn around wrestling. He made it in a mecca. And like it wasn't a mecca. It was the territory system back then.
Well, see now that depends on who you ask.
Okay.
Now, a guy like Eric, like if you're old school, you hate even with the numbers, even with the sellout arenas.
I know he hates
again.
some of those
If
guys.
you listen to a guy like Jim Cornette, I mean, those guys say that
Like
he
old school.
destroyed. Now, again, you also have to make a distinction because, again, you have sports entertainment, and then you have professional wrestling, or what a lot of people used to call, or what he negatively termed wrestling. You have people who want their wrestling. They wanted the realism. They wanted the feuds. They wanted the sense that this was an athletic. They didn't want the gimmicks. And so if you're too young to remember, but there was a major outcry in wrestling back in 1984. It was called the Saturday Night Massacre, where McMahon bought the TV rights to WTBS and that Southern Wrestling, the Georgia promotion. He basically scrapped it. It was the night that people were like, what is this? And it didn't last very long. You had Crockett came in from the Mid-Atlantic, and they kind of formed, teamed with Georgia, and then that's what they formed what was known as the WCW World Championship Wrestling Saturday Night on TBS. That's 86. That happened around late 85, early 86. What's that?
Was it called WCW, you said?
Well, it was the show was World Championship Wrestling. That's what it was called. This isn't before WCW when Turner bought it. It was always called World Championship Wrestling. So again, you had Crockett, the Mid-Atlantic. That's where Ric Flair and those guys were. You had the Georgia territory. That was where Dusty Rhodes was. They combined, so they bought McMahon shares. They combined up, and then they formed that Saturday night product, Saturday at 6:05. That is when I came in and started watching, and that's, so I would be at Eric's house, and we'd be watching that. But again, that was considered, I mean, the people in the South did not want McMahon's brand of wrestling, and they revolted and they bolted from the show. So he got out, and that's what happened. But again, he eventually still won at the end of the day. I mean, he
Absolutely.
Those guys couldn't compete with him. But for a lot of people, they still blame McMahon for ruining professional wrestling. That you had to be back then, you had to have talent, you had to have mic skills. Now everything is scripted. It's almost too much for a lot of people with the acrobatics now, and people coming off the top ropes and and stuff. There's no story being told in the ring. Everything like you started out with. You talk about the rules, like guys going in the back and rehearsing move to move. We're back in the day, especially you said you spoke to Jake the Snake Roberts. He's talked about on several occasions. You built the matchup in the ring based on how the crowd responded to what you were doing. You didn't go in saying, I'm going to do this move and I'm going to do that move. You played to the crowd and the audience. How they reacted is what you decided what the next move was. There was an art form to it. Now everything is scripted. So a lot of people blame McMahon for destroying professional wrestling. And now we have sports entertainment. And those people, and again, it might be an old, these might be the Gen Xers and older who are like, you know what? We're just going to have to die off and be left with, the product.
I agree and disagree at the same time. I'll tell you why I disagree at the same time. Now with Triple H taking over, he's bringing the old school and back into it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still knowing the outcome, but they're not rehearsing as much anymore, or they're not going move for move. They kind of play off the crowd a little bit and how far they're going to go, how long they're going to go for, or are they going to go, or X, Y, Z might happen, like good example. I know this is not as new, but it's really old. When Hogan and Rock, Hogan went in there as the heel and it got flipped
in the moment when they went in there Brock got booed from and I, in fact, I was just watching a video. They interviewed Hogan, and basically he actually went over the match with Rock prior to. And that Hogan wasn't used to that. He was like, look, what if the crowd doesn't buy what we're selling? We're going to have to adapt at some point. And a lot of times it was definitely, something where, again, it was like, okay, Hogan, you were right. And we're going to have to play this. We're going to have to literally script this as we go. We can't just go with a pre-rehearsed, you do this and I'm going to come back and do something else. It had to go off the energy in the ring. So, right. I mean, that match certainly was a yeah, so Eric is an old school guy. Eric is a territory guy, all right? And I'm kind of, in the middle. I appreciate the territory. In fact, I got to say I don't watch a lot of the current product now. I go in and out with it. Cuz I know my daughter, she's a big watcher. She loves the women's division and she really follows that. So anytime there's a big card or whatever, she's always telling me that she's going to watch this or whatever. And like I said, we may go to a future SmackDown or Monday Night Raw if it's local. So I go in and out with the current product, but on any given night, I'm always watching the old product. So I'll go back to WCW from 1986, 87, 88. I mean, I'll just put that on. So I can appreciate those who miss the territory days and they want to get back to when wrestling was more like a sport more so than a gimmick. And so yeah, but that as these newer generations, the older generations die out, the newer generation they're getting something else. But if Triple H can in fact bring back the idea of sport rather than just promos and ring stuff or whatever, and just have people
That's
just
what he's doing. He's actually
if he's doing that, then I think that's good. And I don't think the crowd's going anywhere. I mean that's the thing too. I mean I'm still to this day, again, blown away by, again, the crowd and the energy at these arenas and in these settings. Again, I haven't seen anything like that in any other major sport.
Two things I will say. Triple H is working to get it back like it was. But I'm going to kind of bounce off Eric's comment with the internet. The internet did spoil a lot of stuff.
No. That's a slight for Vince. So internet dirt sheets did a lot. It's an homage to McMahon.
I know. But I'm actually serious about the internet. I think the internet did damage to the business. All of them, from movies to gaming to everything, because there's no wow factor anymore. But when I remember the wow factor. A good example. I remember Goldberg first walking through the arena of WWE. I was watching Raw in my bedroom, minding my own business. And I was like, this is getting boring. As I'm about to change the channel because it's almost over, you hear his music coming on. I'm like, what the? Oh, shit. I'm screaming. I'm shocked. Now, no. And like, it's another YouTube channel called WrestleMania. He tells all the secrets out before they happen. You already know who's coming back before the note comes back. Where's the wow factor? Where's the pop?
Well, also keep in mind, he's talking about the internet. So again, Eric and myself, we go back to the magazines, right? So again, you had Pro Wrestling Illustrated, which was the definitive magazine that covered wrestling back in the day. And back then it was like, information came as the media put it out. So again, the guy might have won the championship 2 months before you knew about it, because again, you didn't know about it until the magazine or the publication came out. So information didn't travel as fast, and it served the business because you could carry out a lot of things longer. Like, for example, you could go from town to town and wrestle the same match, and nobody would know any different because, again, you didn't know what was done in the previous town. Now with the internet, you can see what's been done, and if it's not something new, then you say, look, well, we've seen this already. So again, it's hard to carry storylines. It's hard to go territory to territory or have wrestling as a road show, because again, everybody knows what happened. So yeah, but that happens, I think, in any sport. I know it's affected bodybuilding. I mean, bodybuilding, you didn't know who the Mr. Olympia was until like a month or two after the Muscle and Fitness or the magazine came out, and this guy won the Olympia or something. So I think that there's a lot, that there's a I guess a negative and a positive when it comes to wanting instant news and instant information. It's hard to keep the kayfabe on the business when information travels around the world that quickly. It's hard to maintain
Absolutely.
a gimmick or a shoot or an angle because a lot of times, because back in the day, they used to have it where, especially when you went to Japan, right? They would have title changes in Japan. Like you would go to Japan, Ric Flair or
Yeah, I
whoever it
remember that.
was would lose the belt, but then they would win it back before they left, and nobody was the wiser. So you came back, it's like as if it didn't happen. But the Japanese knew it. It satisfied that fan base, but you didn't know it when it came back. Nobody knew that stuff until you found out years later that, okay, well, these title changes happen if you're in a different country, if you went to Australia or if you went to another place or Hawaii. A lot of things would happen, the road shows and the house shows or whatnot. All that stuff was like under wraps, or it could be a title change or whatever, and then they would just change it as if it didn't happen. You can't do that now with the information that's there. So it's harder to maintain that image and facade with the tech being the way it is, because someone's going to let the bag out. But you can do one act in Charlotte, drive up to to Maryland, do the same act, and nobody be any of the wiser for it.
I agree 100%. But I guess I'm going to stick to my original statement. I think the internet damaged the business. If there was an internet, I don't think we will. I remember the WWE magazine. You probably remember that. You were probably in your 20s back when that came out.
Mm-hmm.
So that faded away. Everything that paper-wise and all the excitement, any kind of excitement we had when you saw a trailer or heard somebody's music or any kind of pop, it's not there anymore because of the internet. That's my personal theory. You might disagree.
I don't see it in the box. I don't see it in the box office though. My only pushback on that is, again, and I come from two eras. Like I said, I went in '86, and I just went last year, and it was like night and day in terms of the demographic who goes. Like you had you had families there, you had young people, you had old people, you took people taking their dates there. I mean, it was so diverse in terms of the makeup, and the people left happy. They left excited. It wasn't like if the numbers were doing, which it did for a time when the steroid issue came out and attendance started dropping in wrestling and whatnot, and it happened across wrestling. Like the early '90s was a tough spot for wrestling because of the steroid trials, and then that's when
all over the place. The '90s was all over the place.
Correct,
like
but then you had those rogue promotions, right?
going on.
That's when you had ECW came out, which was totally, people hate. You either loved it or you hated it. There was no in between with ECW because folks were, but that a lot of people were outraged by it because, again, you had a lot of kids start getting hurt because then you started. In fact, I remember they were selling a video of backyard wrestling. So these are kids like jumping off their roofs of their houses and whatnot.
I remember that.
Onto tables and stuff like that. And they were selling that as a video because you had all these kids who started doing like what Mankind would do and all that kind of stuff. And I think that certainly put a bad taste on it. But again, a lot of people loved it. That Philly crowd, I would have paid money if I could have went to one ECW match for a night. Didn't say I liked a lot of it, but that time, and J.J. Dillon talked about how they had a secret meeting in isolated remote locations at a weird clock. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't be with certain people. You know what I'm saying? Like you couldn't if the wrestlers were staying in a hotel, you couldn't go there. If you were in a restaurant and you knew the guys were there, you couldn't go there. So again, they protected the business greatly. In that
That's where I'm going with this right now. So I know you're a huge Paul Heyman fan.
No, I'm not. I cannot stand Paul Heyman.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it.
Oh,
that's why I said it. No, seriously. No, Undertaker is one of the few wrestlers that protected kayfabe to the end. I mean, to the end. The day he retired, he opened the curtain back finally and brought Mark out and put the Undertaker to rest. Imagine how many years he's been, and he worked for the same promotion from the day he walked through until the day he left. He worked for WCW, and they told me you don't have it, kid. You know, you just better find something else to do it. And he got pissed off, so he went to WWF at the time, WWE now, and then he's been with Vince ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how many balls WCW dropped. They could have been around still. But now we're also going through another cycle. Think about it. Now all these promotions are popping out again. So we have right now, it was WWE, obviously. Then we had TNA. TNA didn't do that well. It kind of crashed and burned when Hogan and Eric Bischoff took control of that, like always. But they also was like Dixie Carter. They didn't know how to run a business like that.
Oh gosh,
she's just a
daddy's money. That was all.
Pretty much, she's a rich little girl. That's what it was. So they kind of took a break from TV, but they were still wrestling, trying to re-go, and they came back. They're back now on main TV. And at the same time, in the meantime, also AEW. Now you have 3 major promotions that people can go. Like, one thing I know it has changed, because AEW really changed this, is the schedule is not as harsh. They give them more time off. Right. And now, Paul Heyman, Paul Villac, Triple H, went through it with his wife and his kids. He goes, we need to keep these guys alive so they come back to us. And funny story about this, and Vince denied it on his interview on the next film documentary. Jesse Ventura was trying to unionize them.
Yes.
And he got cock blocked.
Yes, by Hogan.
It was Triple H who cock blocked him. I don't know if that's true.
No, it was Hulk Hogan. No.
Hogan cock blocked him?
Okay. Yeah, so it was WrestleMania 2. He tried to pull a move to say, look, on the night of WrestleMania 2, we're not gonna wrestle until we get our union. So this was like this opportunity. Hogan got wind of it. He told Vince, and that kind of blocked. That kind of killed the whole thing. So because Jesse at the time, he was already in Hollywood. So this is like 85, 86. He was already doing movies. Predator was about to come out. He did, Running Man. All those movies were about to come out. So he was kind of set from Hollywood. He got a SAC card and whatnot. So he was already understanding what the value of a union was. He tried to bring it into wrestling, and it was Hogan who blocked that. So that's the story behind that, at least from the story that he tells of it.
So Hogan, I have mixed feelings of Hogan, to be honest with you. I think he's still an icon. He's a legend, all that stuff. But he only did good for Hogan. He never did nothing good for the business. If you realize if you watch his career, that's what it was. And he's known for kind of burning people in the back in the company. That's why nobody wants to work with him anymore at this point. He burned too many people. He made his money. He's good. He's straight. Look what cars he drives and stuff like that. Like, I know a buddy of mine lives like I think a couple houses away from him. He lives in Florida. He lives in the complex, the townhouses, and he lives a couple houses down. And he sees him walk up down. And he talks to him all the time. He goes, "He's straight." He goes to me, bro. Mark, he comes to my channel once in a while. And he goes, he's straight. He's not hurting for money. He made enough money. But Hogan's he's gonna be one of those guys who would never get a retirement match like Flair did, like Undertaker did. Those guys.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I thought WrestleMania 18 was almost like a retirement match. I mean, because he didn't really do a ton of. Certainly, he was never put on top again. That was like the apex of his comeback. I think when he came back, I don't think he was any bigger than WrestleMania 18.
Wasn't a very complex wrestler. He was a very simple move wrestler.
Here, yeah. Look at some of Hulk Hogan's matches in Japan. He did moves back then. He, a lot of, but again, it's a different brand. It's a different style of wrestling. Again, Hulk Hogan was taught by Hiro Matsuda, so he knows how to wrestle. But here,
I'm not saying that one bit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's not a complex wrestler. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he can wrestle. He's not getting complicated. Like what you don't see.
Not here. I agree with you here. But I'm saying, but if you want to see him doing more complex wrestling, watch some of the Japan stuff. You'll see some of that.
Yeah, I've never seen him go to the top rope, for example, jump off the top rope. I never seen him do that ever. Not even Japanese stuff. Like even
if that's what you mean, if you talk about the acrobatics or the high
I mean,
those high risk
all
maneuvers
in
or
general,
whatnot, yeah,
everything
right.
in general. I'm not saying he can. I know he wrestles. I was like, he made a name for himself. He knows what he's doing in the ring. He
Mhm.
knows how to handle the people. And people also say he is not the safest person to work with. Sometimes still, he was very stiff.
Yeah,
True or false? I don't know.
yeah,
So that's the other argument you have there. It
right.
is a huge argument back and forth with that. But whatever. We're not here to argue he was a good wrestler or a bad wrestler. Is he a legend? Yes. What we're here, we are having a conversation is the impact of these guys have they made. And Hogan is one of those people who made a great impact.
He
He made
did.
a
No,
great
no question. Him, if you were gonna add, we got about 10 minutes left of the show. So your Mount Rushmore, professional wrestlers, who would they be?
professional wrestler. Okay, so Hogan be number one because that's who I grew up with. As much, I want to. I'm talking a little shit on him, but he's a legend. I give him that. Second, Bill Goldberg from the 90s. That's my second legend right there. And current, if I had to pick somebody, I would reach out and shake his hand. Like, hey, you're doing a pretty good job, kid. I'll probably Roman Reigns. I'll give you why Roman Reigns, and I want to use that as my closing statement tonight because I've been saying I have an announcement. I keep forgetting to make it, so I'm gonna make it today because it's fresh in my mind because I am getting old as you. So yeah, Roman Reigns has cancer. Everybody knows that he has leukemia. Came back and beat it. My mom used that as motivation, and plus she wants to fuck a shit out of Roman Reigns, and she has said it to me. We had a conversation once. I go, Ma, what have you ever meet Roman Reigns? I went to her like, oh, you don't want me to do that. Like, I'm like, what? I'm gonna rape his face. He goes to me. I'm like, what are you gonna rape his fucking face? I'm gonna grab him. I'm gonna I will shove my tongue down so far his throat. I'm like, okay, Ma, shut the fuck up.
Wow. So your mom actually wants to violate
nasty.
Roman.
Yeah. And you guys met my mom. You know how she is. Hopefully it doesn't go on OnlyFans. That's not be good with that. So there's gonna be my closing statement. I told you this in the car. My mom recently had a colonoscopy. It is cancer free at the moment.
Praise God.
Yeah, but again, we said this last time, but we see what happens now because we have to pay attention very close to it because last time this happened and it came back in a year. The doctor doesn't think so, but again, I'll be happy after 2 years. Then I'll be good after I see that.
Wow. All right, so interesting. So my Mount Rushmore, I would put Hogan and Flair. Hogan, Ric Flair. Just personally, I would put Ricky Steamboat. I think Ricky Steamboat to me is probably the greatest wrestler, in-ring tactician, in-ring ability, gave a sense of credibility to it. I love Ricky Steamboat. I'll definitely put him up there. And then I may have to say either it's a split between Rock and Stone Cold. I know I can only pick one of those guys. I may pick the Rock. Certainly what he did in that time. So that probably might be my my top four. But again, Ricky Steamboat for me is the most we talk about perfect wrestler. He always represented that standard to me. And again, he's been involved in some of the greatest matches of all time. If you look at the match that he had with Randy Savage, oftentimes it's considered to be one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time, even though it was scripted. But it was considered one of the greatest. You look at the matches that he had with Ric Flair, also considered to be amongst the greatest matches in wrestling history. So I just think that he doesn't. I don't think he gets enough credit for the again for his ring generalship, and he just doesn't mean feel. Shout out to him. Yeah.
I know we just said 3 top, I don't think it's as fair a statement either because there's so many good wrestlers. You got Ultimate Warrior, you got Roddy Piper,
not good. Ultimate Warrior. I mean, most of the wrestlers say he wasn't good. He wasn't good for 5 minutes. The match that he had with Hogan said he wanted to quit after 2 minutes because that was his gimmick. He go in there, he squash a guy in 5 minutes, and that was his thing. He wasn't meant to be a 20, 30-minute match. He was a jerk to be around. And
he's still a legend. That's what I'm trying to say. The guys,
but he was a flash in the pan. He wasn't a great champion after he won it, and he never,
I don't remember how long he was. To be honest.
So he barely he was barely, and then he quit.
Stone Cold, for example. Yeah. Stone Cold, for example. Undertaker. Those are also Mount Olympus wrestlers. Let's be honest. There are a lot of good wrestlers out there. We just haven't. 3 is not a fair number to say 3. You top 3.
Well, it's 4. Well, Mount Rushmore is 4.
Oh, I said 3. So, but The Rock's a good one too. He's going to be down with the legends too.
Yeah.
No way down. I'm curious about WrestleMania this year. What's going to happen? Because rumors he's going to be wrestling again. Let's see. Because last time he did a pretty good job. He didn't blow his groin out this time, at least in 10 minutes.
Right.
He remember the last time he wrestled was John Cena, and he blew his groin out in 5 minutes into the match. And John Cena had to carry him through the match. And again, let's see this time.
Gotcha.
Hopefully he doesn't blow.
Right. Yeah. Last question I have for you, and because I wanted to ask you this because I have a couple things I want to say before I close out. Most memorable thing that you saw, good or bad, in wrestling history. If you have a good one, if you have a bad one. Most memorable incident, move, action that you've ever seen in the history of wrestling.
I don't remember who they're feuding against. I remember Mick Foley comes out and they're arguing, and he goes, we tagged. It's gonna be a 3 against 2. Whoever you want. He goes, I'm gonna call him right now. I'm going back to you know what? He goes, except calling him, I'm gonna call him. Hell yeah, he just come right out. And the Rock music comes out. He just runs to the stage, and all these guys scatter like cockroaches out of there. It just hits my memory every time. I just remember that one. It's one of those things like, oh, shit, I remember that.
All right. Well, I have 2. I have a good one, and I have a bad one, and they both involve the same person. Okay.
Oh boy.
So the first bad one, the heel that I hated the most. Good list, Mandrell. The heel that I hated the most in wrestling history was Roddy Piper. When he came to WWF in 1983, he had that Piper's Pit with Jimmy Superfly Snuka, who was my favorite wrestler at the time. It was the Superfly. And he hit Jimmy with the coconut. First of all, let alone all of the bigoted comments that he said to him. But when he hit him with the coconut, I saw that live, and from that moment on, and Eric knows this, anytime it came up, I almost, you know it was coming too. I hated Roddy Piper from that time on, and I always hated him. So that was like the worst moment that I saw in wrestling. The second moment, though, was prior to that with Jimmy Snuka. He had that match at Madison Square Garden against Don Morocco. And in that match, you saw Superfly, even though he lost the match, he climbed up on the top of the steel cage, 15 feet in the air, did the sign with his hands, came 15 feet off the mat and onto Morocco to squash him. Still to this day, still at the time when I saw it, if you look at the reaction in the garden at the time, still the best pop that I've ever seen, even with these bigger crowds and everything now. So again, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, I know, people are kind of down on him now because of what happened apparently with his girlfriend and all that kind of stuff. A lot of controversy there still. But still, he was at the time, as much as I love Ricky Steamboat, Jimmy Snuka, and that time, 1983, there was not, in fact, the reason for what I understand, why they brought Piper into WWF was to take Snuka down because he was so hot. When they brought Hogan in '84, they couldn't get the heat off of Snuka, so they used Piper to kind of and take that storyline to kind of bring him down. So the coconut incident and all that stuff to kind of bring him down, that kind of happened sort of after that. But at the time, after Snuka did that dive off the top rope, people were like, he was the number one guy, and he also had a heel turn. He had a face turn. So it was a bad guy coming in. He was with Lou Albano. He left Albano. He became the most popular wrestler in wrestling. And when he did that match at the Garden, that was the apex. Still one of the greatest moments in wrestling that I've ever saw, and still why I have affinity for him.
Let me ask you a question really
today.
fast.
Yeah.
Because I know this was very confidential at the time. When Piper came out with his face painted half white, half black, how did you feel about that?
I didn't feel that bad about it relative to the I thought the Snooker incident was worse. By far worse, because again, he did all the stuff, the monkey jokes and the all the just the ethnic, and Piper was known, he would go anybody he would go after, and he would use ethnic stuff to go after people. But again, when he hit him with the coconut, that was just it for me. And I that still burns in my craw even to this day. So that day will live in infamy. For me. So the black white thing with the makeup and all that, look, that was, I don't think it went well as far as the gimmick or what they were trying to sell at the time. I would have went in a different direction with that.
Backfired in the face big time.
Yeah. But the Snooker incident, if you don't remember the Snooker incident, go back and watch that one, because that was the one that I was like, and I remember where I was when I watched it, and I was like, oh snap. And that just, at that time, I just wanted, at the time, and again, I might have been 13, 14 years old at the time, still coming to the realization that wrestling might not be on the up and up. And I just wanted Snooker to kill the guy. I was just,
That's not bad,
I was so incensed. I just wanted that to be, yeah. So that was, seeing that for the first time, I was like, oh man, that was it. I ain't never seen anything like that. So that's it for me. But yeah, certainly good discussion just overall tonight. Just, as we get to final thoughts here, I would say that, again, wrestling in general, and I'm talking about, whether it be in high school, grammar school, elementary school, wrestling, I think it's a good sport to put your kid in for a lot of reasons. Again, the discipline that you get from amateur wrestling, the workouts, the and just, again, it can save your life in the street. Like I said, I can't tell you how many guys, martial artists, who when they talk about what is best to use in the street, they always go to wrestling, because again, how to get a guy down and how to keep him pinned down, wrestling is a great base for that. Whether you decide to go and do other sports or not, other martial arts, definitely I would certainly recommend that people do that. And whether you want to go into pursue an amateur, a professional wrestling career, it's like anything else, it's a tough venture to get into. I mean, yes, we're talking about these superstars, but again, there's probably 10,000 guys that we'll never know about, who never made it, who paid the dues mentally, physically, and otherwise, trying to get there, and they didn't. And those stories are always kind of sad to watch. But again, you got to be passionate about it to do it. But I'm just amazed at the fact that even today, after all these years, wrestling is still the global sport, if you want to call it that. Attracts crowds, huge crowds wherever it goes. I think it's one of the, about the gray area, it's definitely one of those things that I think brings people together. You don't hear a lot of political stuff when you talk about professional wrestling. And I think it's just something that's just, it has universal appeal. Families, single, black, white, it doesn't matter, gray, everyone in between. It's just something that, you can go there and have a good time. And, so I still to this day appreciate it, even though I don't watch it as much as I used to. But like I said, on any given night, I may watch some classic stuff, bringing back those memories, including the Snooker, the good and the bad. Just when I was starting to get soft on Roddy Piper, someone would always send me a link to him hitting Jimmy with the coconut, and then I just lose all respect for him again. So that's just something I'm just never going to get over. But that's my closing thought. So.
Probably told him to do that. So but I don't have anything else. I think that's it. I'm good with what I said.
Awesome. Well, again, we want to thank everybody for coming on through tonight. Our boy Mandrell, looks, and we got to get you on soon. All right. So again, We're looking to schedule an interview. We're going to have several interviews coming up in the gray area over the next few months, and we definitely want to get some guys on. Mandrell, he's certainly on that short list. We just got to work out a time, but we want to have a show certainly with him. Lady Navarre, the Queen, again, thank you always for supporting us and stopping on through here tonight, and everybody who came to the chat tonight, sharing your top your Mount Rushmores and just your memories of wrestling. Certainly. Like I said, it has a lot of appeal, and it's just something that is something that again, it just brings people together, and that's what I really like about it. So, but with that, again, I am Mr. Bennett. He is from the Sparta HQ Network, the Ghost of Sparta, aka Peter, aka Paliotis. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you for all the birthday wishes. Again, so season 56 starts today. So I'm in training for season 56 right now. So again, the workouts are going to get even harder. I'm going to train until the wheels come off, and I'm gonna keep picking. So again, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys see when I put up videos, or Facebook when I put up my training videos or whatnot. So my goal, again, I have to do my age in push-ups, and they have to be consecutive, right? So I didn't meet the goal this year. Only got the 45 push-ups with an additional 5, but the goal is 55 to 56 push-ups that I have to do, and so I'll be working on that more in earnest for this season to come up. But I still, again, train hard, eat well, get rest, take care of yourselves or whatnot, be as strong and healthy as you can for your age. And again, I'm just so blessed to be in this season of my life where I'm still experiencing new things. I'm still curious about the world, and just the opportunities that are coming my way to participate in things that for up to this time I didn't get a chance to do. But I'm not looking to settle down anytime soon. I think that's what keeps you young and youthful, and I'm just grateful to this platform. I'm grateful to BMU. I'm grateful to Peter sharing the spotlight with me, and so just look forward to more exciting things coming up from us in this new year. Very excited about things that are going on. But with that, have a great week. Be safe. Take care. We'll see you next time. God bless.